Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Miss Fitzgerald, you there? So we'll get started.
I am.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing and coming on with us. But I want to call the meeting to order. September the 20th, 2018, DCS Board. And my opening remarks is I'm just glad to see everyone here, safe and sound. Just remember each other in prayers. A dear friend of mine lost his mother didn't lose her. Everybody knows she's in heaven with the Lord. Judge Fuller. All of us know Judge Fuller. His mother on yesterday went on to be with the Lord. So remember him in your prayers. So now we move on to the next section of the agenda. I need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
It's been properly motioned and second. All those in favor, could I have here a aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The agenda is approved. Give you a chance to review and approve of the June 21st, 2018 meetings. After you have read that, it was sent out to you previously, but after you have read it, and I'll get a motion on that.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented, Mr. Chairman.
Motion's been properly given. Could I get a second?
Second.
It's been properly second. Those in favor of the motion of the minutes from the previous meeting, could I hear aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed or abstain? Okay, motion carries. Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, Mr. Commissioner.
That's okay. Is it? Long as you
I'm
call
looking at my notes.
me. Long as you call me.
How are you?
I'm doing well.
While he's coming forward, those of us that went down to the training it's been a couple of weeks, 3 or 4 weeks ago. That was one of the most impressive trainings that I've had in my career as it relates to the camaraderie of your members there who represents this agency. So,
Well,
excellent.
I certainly appreciate that, and I'm going to talk about that in just a moment, but certainly do appreciate it. Let me say welcome to the new members. Steve Queen, finally, and Michael Terrell, welcome back. We finally got yours taken care of. Mr. Rollins, with DFACS, we appreciate it. Assistant Chair of the Parole Board, or Vice Chair, I should say, Brian Owens, and I hope we won't have a Freudian slip and say Commissioner. It took me a while to not call him Terry, Mr. Chairman, Representative. But again, good to have you gentlemen here with us today. If we could, and Commissioner Niles, Chairman Niles opened it up talking about being fortunate and blessed, but I would just ask that we keep North Carolina and South Carolina in our thoughts and prayers. We have some officers volunteering there. I know parole with the convoy for care and other agencies are participating, but I just couldn't imagine. But we want to keep them in our thoughts and prayers. You all received a copy of the quarterly newsletter. It's not too long of a read, but it really highlights what DCS is all about. And that's giving folks an opportunity to change and facilitating that change. And I hope you had time to read it. I want to give special compliments to Jamel Washington, who is the editor. I don't think Jamel's in here, but he does a wonderful job with that newsletter. So just wanted to take time to recognize that. The GPACS conference, you're right, Chairman. It was wonderful. Thomas Green opened up the conference and said, you know what, if you don't see anything that caters to you for this training, then you're either at the wrong place or you're not here for the right reason. And it had training for everyone. Barbara Neville, I wanted to compliment you as well as your entire board. You all did a fantastic job. I'm always leery to say it's the best conference ever, but I think it was. I honestly say that from the involvement of private probation providers and governmental probation providers, parole, DJJ, corrections, just a super conference in great training. I appreciate the board members that attended. I know how busy your schedule is. Chairman Niles, I know Chairman Barnard, you were there and did some presentation as well as we had Jacqueline Bunn, Sonia did a presentation and as well as Commissioner Fitzgerald, and we had David Herron there from the Pro Board, so we got to see him. So I certainly do appreciate it. Michael Terrell and Steve Queen were there as well. But it was just well attended and really do appreciate it. I like what Commissioner Fitzgerald said. It got back to me. I was not in that, but she said it's funny. One thing that happens when you become a commissioner, your jokes automatically get funnier. And see what I mean? And I said, you know, that does make a lot of sense now that I think about it. But they made a difference on that panel. They really did. Two things I wanted to mention to you. Lee Broom Award has been given out at that conference for many years. I know 20, 25 plus years. And this year's recipient was our Assistant Commissioner, Scott Mauer. And I can't think of a person that is more deserving that had contributed to the field of community supervision. We're proud of him. And he right now is up in Idaho at a National Institute of Correction network meeting. And he just called this morning and said that they would like to come to us to have their next network meeting in April. So we will try to work with that. And it'd be great if we could introduce the board to that group of professionals. We get a lot of good ideas and good information shared. Also, many of you remember Patrick Price, who was with Parole, who passed away, and GPAC's rightfully initiated an award, Patrick Price Community Impact Award, and that was given to Quintina Burrows Lee. And she took it upon herself to give back to her community and start collecting school supplies for those that are in need in her community. And then it transpired, went with Sherry Chambers doing our statewide charitable contribution. And when we talked about giving books for Christmas, you got a lot of toys for tots, but we knew also that First Lady Deal's passion about teaching to read and but helped to initiate that. But we're really proud of her as well when we see folks that are giving back, and I can't help but to think Patrick would be saying well done. So we're pleased with that. And I'm going to take a time out for just a second and call on Sandra Thomas for a couple presentations and then a few remarks, and then I'll jump right back in.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You heard Commissioner Nail talk about the GPAC's conference, and part of that conference, and you heard him mention about women in leadership. And that was a phenomenal training class, and we had the honor of having our very own DCS board members, Ms. Sonia Fillingame, and also Commissioner Fitzgerald. And let me tell you, that was some of the best training that I've ever participated in. And let me tell you, the discussion, they were able to tell their story during a panel discussion. And it was very powerful just to hear their faith and their support of their families and just the confidence that they have in themselves stood out. And it was certainly it was displayed, and just everybody was engaged. And with that being said, I would like to present Ms. Fillingame with a photo picture of the group. And Commissioner Fitzgerald, do you hear me? She's not here.
I can. I'm on my way.
Okay. So I would like to present this to you, just a token of our appreciation, that you know that we appreciate your leadership. And so many women strive to be like you, and that's what it's about. You giving back and letting them strive to be more like you. So thank you.
very honored. But what I want to do is boomerang that back to you and to all of the leadership here and all the team members at DCS for making it important to have that session. I thought it was very impactful. And I tell you what, I came there to hopefully give, but I received. And I'm very, very grateful and honored. And you guys are so nice to do this. Thank you. We are very appreciative.
Yes. And a few more things over in some areas in our training division. We held our 10th Management Essentials training. And I want to just say and point out that we've had a couple of parole staff participate in that class. And we're just honored to partner with parole to have them a part of that. So thank you, Felicia. Thank you for sending those to that class because it's certainly, we're certainly here for them, okay? Also, we had our first ICLD, and ICLD is the Institute for Credible Leadership Development, and that is a 6-month leadership course, and it's an online leadership course, so it's very difficult to pace yourself, but we had our first graduation back in August, and it was just a super time to embrace that type of training because it's very difficult to go through. And the last thing I want to point out is, as you know, Richard Olson, he was the director for strategic planning and research. He retired officially on July 1. Seems a little bit longer, but he officially retired July 1. And we had a interim director, Nick Powell. And I would like to say we're happy to announce that we appointed Nick Powell as a director, officially the director for that role. And I would like to present Nick. Nick, come up. He didn't know this. I would like to present Nick with the badge as director of strategic planning in this role. So thank you.
Just for the record, Nick makes me call him Doctor. He recently was awarded his doctorate degree, and we're proud of him for that. He was, before coming to Central Office, was an assistant chief over in Fulton County. So we're proud of you, Nick, and we know you're going to do great things. Keep up the good work. I got to tell on Michael Terrell for a second. We had there was a retirement seminar at the conference. So I see Mike's on the front row, and I'm like, Mike, you work for the state? He said, nope, but I'm here to recruit. I thought that was ecstatic right there. So he was standing out the doorway, giving cards, people coming up. So I thought that was good. The good work continues. Johnny Knapp and Human Resources team for, I believe, the 3rd year now, and that's how long our agency has been in existence, received the Commissioner's Award from HRA for HR audit performance. Nearly perfect audits for 3 years in a row. And that's no simple feat. And I always want to make sure that Johnny and his team are recognized for the hard work that they do, and certainly for the Human Resource Administration Commissioner to take time and present that award. You may remember a while ago we started Prison Reentry Initiative. Some of you at the table probably shudder to kind of think about it. It got off to a rocky start, and this was an initiative where we took medium to high risk that were coming out of prison to particular areas, 5 at the time, and now it's up to, I believe, 17 or 16. Michelle, how many? 17? I finally got that right. 17. And everything from having to let the consultant go early on to having the Governor's Office of Transition Support and Reentry have leadership changes 3 different times and then eventually moving our way. And I say that because as rocky as it was, we finally got the survey and evaluation done, and Michelle may talk about this a little bit, but it has made a big difference. Those that were in the PRI had fewer arrests than the comparison group. They had higher employment than the group, better family unification, better educational achievements. And I think the story is there. When you put the right resources to the right group, you get those type of results. So on one hand, we shouldn't be surprised. But I think on the other hand, when you realize the rocky start everything got off to within the first 2 years of it, very, very, very pleased with that outcome. And being that the evaluation is completed, it is going to be the model that we will start utilizing when we talk about community supervision, because it has proven to work. We have reentry specialists that are housed inside the prison. We have housing coordinators. We have community coordinators building that capacity and serving as a resource for that officer. So you don't have 50 officers keeping 50 different resource lists. So it has made a difference. And I want to thank Michelle Stanley as well as her entire team for the work that they have done in reentry services to bring it to that point. We have attended what I call the summer conference tours of the judges and the DAs in good standing with them. Those are two groups that more than likely not going to pick up the phone and say, hey, just want to thank you for doing a good job. But they will certainly call you if there's problems or issues, and we left both those meetings unscathed, which is always good. That's not to say we're doing things perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I think they know that there's a conduit of information that flows, and if we do have issues, we can resolve them and resolve them quickly. We're working in a collaborative effort with the Attorney General Chris Carr, as well as the U.S. Attorney General's office. As you know, with the gangs issue, and some will say it is an epidemic. That was one of the reasons for our training, but also partnering with corrections as well as DJJ and parole when we look at tackling that issue, because quite frankly, the gangs stand for everything opposite of what we are trying to accomplish. They disrupt communities, they disrupt families, they contribute to the crime problem, so we are partnering with them. And this is the first time that I can ever remember where the federal government or the federal agencies are taking proactive steps. I think I shared with you before that last year alone, we seized over 300 weapons on home contacts. Now they are taking a fast, hard approach and are pursuing those at the federal level, which will give it much, much more teeth. So we are appreciative of their efforts, and we're just proud to be part of them. Tuesday, we have an employee awards ceremony. Know your schedule is busy, but if you can find yourself down in Forsyth at the Public Safety Training Center at 10 o'clock, we will have those awards. It's always good to recognize folks going above and beyond. In 8 years that Governor Deal has been in office, state agencies, as many of you know, have been operating under a flat budget, no increases, and managing within. And this year, he authorized us to present a 2% increase budget plan. And we have done that. He will readily tell you he can recommend it, but it's going to be other administrations' responsibility to choose to pass it or not. But I wanted to share with you as a board, we have two priorities with that 2% increase. One is for a career ladder and advancement for counselors. I don't know any other way to put it. We are bleeding profusely. Counselors are leaving us left and right. They play such a tremendous role in what we are trying to accomplish. I think sometimes we think it's all about officers, and while that's a huge part of it, these counselors play a critical role. We've got to do something to address the turnover. The second area is administrative staff. This is a group that continues to be overlooked. They are critical to our operation. Hey, Commissioner, they are, I know you're like, hey, thanks for bringing attention to me, but they are very critical. We've done some things internally where we put them in moving statewide to a court specialist role. I think you heard about that at the last meeting. So there is upward mobility for them where we can have officers out of the courtroom and working caseloads. but also to advance their career. So those are our two priorities right there. Finally, all agency heads were asked to submit a transition document for the incoming administration, whoever he or she may be, and we have done that. We have submitted ours, and I got to tell you, it's incredible when you look over 3 years what has been done. It truly is, and I wake up every day excited to come to work. I'm not so sure it's because of the work or if it's because of the people that's doing the work. They keep you going every day. They are truly committed professionals, and I would put the team up against anyone. When I say the team, I'm talking about all 2,000 employees in DCS. They are committed to making a difference. They have taken one officer, one family, one community. They have implemented it, and they are doing an exceptionally fine job. Again, we'll never claim to be perfect, but I will give you my word, we're going to do everything we can to become perfect. So that completes my brief, with the exception of, I would be remiss if I did not, former Governor of Kentucky, Ernie Fletcher. We appreciate you being here. I know we have a meeting right after this with other entities, but sir, we appreciate it, and you have done some fabulous work in Kentucky under your leadership, and look forward to hearing more about that. But I didn't want to be remiss and not introduce you, so welcome, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Finally, talking about that, I shared with Governor Fletcher, I was a Kentucky colonel. I was proud of it. He said, who isn't? So we give those things out like candy. I was like, well, thank you, sir. But no, but we're proud to have him. But Mr. Chairman, unless there are any questions from the board, that would conclude my remarks.
Any questions from the board? You have heard the report from the commissioner. Is there any questions? If not, we'll move on.
All right, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. I think Patrick's going to stand in for David.
Yes, sir. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
How y'all doing today? As you said, I'm stepping in for David today. David is actually out at the beach with his kids for spring break, so I'm sitting in for him today. Hopefully, I can do as well as he does. Answer all your questions.
Spring break.
Oh, they get so many breaks, I get them mixed up. Seems like they're out here every month. Yeah, that's it. Wish it was me. So, what I'm going to start off with is give y'all a couple of updates that are going to be coming up for us with field operations. The first is on the next week, on the 24th, we're going to start our next basic class. After that, on the 12th of October, we will have a lot of our officers attending the Respect for Recovery 5K event. That's a good event that is actually hosted by DBHCD. We have a lot of officers that come out and participate with that. If you all are available, we'd like for you to come out and walk and run with us as well. Talked about basics starting on the 4th. We actually have a basic class that is in session right now, and they will be graduating on the 19th of October. And we also would like to invite you to come out and see those people graduate our cadets for going through those 9 weeks and completing that class and become our next set of officers. On the 23rd of October, we will be helping with Victims Visitors Day, which is going to be in Gainesville, Georgia this time. We have officers that come out and help do security. We also help with the exit interviews for those events. That's a great event for everyone. If you want to come out and participate with us on that one, we would like to have you there as well. As you know, October is Halloween. Each Halloween we have a operation where we go out and make sure we check on our sex offenders. We want to make sure that our children, when they go out and trick or treat, they don't have to worry about any of our predators or sex offenders coming out to have some contact with them. So we have operations set up throughout the state. We partner with our local law enforcement agencies to help us participate with that. So we'll also have that going on in October 31st. As you all know, in January, Super Bowl 52 is going to be coming to Atlanta. We have been asked to help participate in security for that. We've asked for 250 of our officers who are going to be participating in that. So we look forward to having our officers come out and do security for the Atlanta Falcons when they go to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl next year. We'll be there. Don't worry about it. We'll make it up. One of the big things that we have that we started on September 3rd is our automatic case review in our portal. Previously, before that, our managers, when they reviewed cases, basically they just picked cases at random. And you really didn't know if you were picking a case that needed to be reviewed or not. Well, our automatic case review system is actually set up where it will identify cases to the manager to review based on either activity by the offender, negative activity such as not attending treatment classes, or by inactivity by the officer, such as when a person has not been seen by an officer in a certain period of time. So we actually, by this new automatic case review system, you will actually review cases that need to be reviewed instead of just picking them at random. We're looking forward to having this in process. We've talked to some of the managers out in the field, and they love the system the way it works right now. It takes some of that, that randomness out of the situation, and you know which cases are going to be interviewed. The next thing we have, as you all know, an optimal caseload size for officers has kind of been an enigma for everybody. Throughout the nation, people have been trying to determine what's a good caseload size for an officer to have when they want to supervise people. Well, with DCS, we've actually, over the last 3 years, reduced our caseload sizes per officer tremendously. But one of the things we've also asked is for another agency to come in and kind of do a caseload analysis of what we do with our officers to kind of make sure that we're doing what we need to do to make sure that we have an efficiency and an effective way of supervising. We look forward to next week. They're going to give us a preliminary analysis of that caseload analysis, the workload analysis for us. So we look forward to looking at that and see how we can better improve the way we supervise our offenders. And the last thing I have is we just had a SDG training on Tuesday of this week. We had a good turnout with all of our SDG officers throughout the state. We had excellent speakers. They focused on interviewing gang members and also how to identify and supervise homegrown extremists and radicalized offenders. We also had some parole staff to attend that training. We appreciate parole allowing those staff to come in and attend with us. We have also in the process of setting up a district STG coordinators for each one of our districts throughout the state. And this will help us to be more efficient in making sure that we have communication between each one of our districts when it comes to those STG offenders. And I think that's it. If you have any questions for me, I'll be glad to try to answer them.
Will there be any questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I would also like for Michelle Stanley to step in and kind of give a review on our reentry unit, if you don't mind. Thank you so much.
Good morning. Good morning. Just a few updates. The commissioner already shared a little bit about PRI, so I'll just kind of start there and then give a few more community engagements that we currently have going on. This is our last month in the grant cycle. After 4 years, as the commissioner mentioned, we are at the end. I would like to say, from a financial standpoint and a programmatic standpoint, we had an awesome review by BJA with no findings. So we're looking forward to seeing their final report, but everything outbriefed with them. It was at Tift College, everything was very favorable. So that spoke volumes to the work of those grant managers and the work that they're doing to ensure that that piece is effective. Commissioner mentioned about the preliminary findings from the evaluation. We will have that final written report before Christmas. They actually have 90 days after the grant cycle ends to do that last pool of data. So everything that we've got preliminary, as Commissioner mentioned, has been very favorable, and we look forward to having that final report so we can look at how we move forward with statewide implementation. On January the 10th, we would kind of like to commemorate everything that has happened with the initiative over the 4 years and want to invite our community stakeholders that has been involved in that process with us along the way to come out and celebrate, as well as give them opportunity to hear the final report findings and hopefully maybe shed some light on how we'll be moving forward with the coming year. So mark your calendars for January the 10th. It'll be at Dipstick from 1 to 3, and just want to have an opportunity to just kind of highlight what went over in those 4 years. Our statewide community engagement, we're currently partnering with Georgia Justice Project, and we have about 7 sites around the state where they're doing a community engagement on some of the legal barriers around reentry to change the laws around reentry, as well as they're working with individuals that bring their criminal history with them to those events to talk to them specifically about anything that they can advise them on that may can be removed from their criminal history record to help them move forward. We've had an event thus far in Richmond County on the 30th, one in Troup on the 18th of this month, one on the 19th, which was yesterday in Macon, and we have 5 left in Muskogee on September the 20th, Liberty September the 24th, Floyd on the 26th, Hall on the 27th, and Douglas County on the 28th. From the events we've had thus far, we've had about 200 or so people that have attended those events. We've done the morning session through a panel discussion with the solicitors, the DAs, Georgia Justice Project, of course, our agency, and other stakeholders being a part to kind of share in those legal barriers and issues around reentry. But that afternoon has been what's been most powerful because those individuals have been able to hear from those attorneys directly, kind of some of those barriers, and then meeting with them individually. Of course, it's not an expungement session, but we're giving them those tools to know how to move forward. So those expungement sessions will follow next. We're partnering with our sheriff departments and our district attorney's office to start working that piece of it as well. So they were given the application process so they can get started. So we're excited about that engagement. A few other things we have going on with our community coordinators. In Troup County, we hosted a successful job fair where we had 30 employers on hand working with individuals that showed up and actually was taking applications from those individuals that we're working with. So as we talk about how we have employment moving upward with our PRI participants, things of these natures helping us be able to do that. Also, in Floyd County, they took it a step further and looked at a 3-part financial management course. So not only are we looking to try and employ them, we want to be able to help them have tools to be able to manage the money once they've been gainfully employed. And we had over 20 individuals participating in that event, and that was a partnership with Georgia Watch, Northwest Georgia Center for Independent Living, as well as we partnered with the local CSB Highland Rivers, as well as Floyd County Mental Health Court. In Hall County, we participated with the Accountability Court, as well as our Day Reporting Center, in a treatment service rally for recovery. And on the 15th of September, we had over 200 participants that came out for that rally. And lastly, in Liberty County, we are working with the city of Hinesville around housing solutions. Currently, we only have 2 RPH programs in Liberty County. So of course, we're working to try and build capacity for housing providers in that area. So those are just a few highlights of what we have going on in a few counties around the state. Any questions for me?
Is there any questions?
Just a comment, Mr. Chairman. I attended a celebration at the Urban League last week, and Valencia was recognized. So just appreciate her work and everything she's doing in the community to make reentry better.
Thank you. You mentioned Valencia Miller, and she was community coordinator in Fulton County. We just recently promoted her to our statewide community coordinator, so we're looking forward to her bringing everything she's done in Fulton County full circle with the other 17 counties. So thank you.
Is she here today?
She's not.
She's not working, right?
She's working.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Mike, you're up.
Good morning, board members. Mr. Chair. DCS was well represented this week at the Council of Accountability Court Judges Training Conference in Athens. In addition to numerous officers, DCS officers and counselors that were attending as part of their local court team, we also manned a booth that Housing, Counseling Services, and our DRC programs were in an effort to reach out to those folks with the accountability courts. As you know, last year we expanded accountability courts' ability to use the RPH program. So as Michelle talked about expanding resources, we're always looking to expand resources for housing or teach people how to use that RPH program. It was a fabulous conference. It was in Athens, so whenever you're in the Classic City, it's a good time. And Governor Adil actually addressed the crowd Tuesday morning and discussed the accountability courts and the criminal justice reform in Georgia during his time in office. So it was, all in all, it was a very great conference. In Augusta 2 weeks ago, we conducted the Reentry Partnership Housing Collaborative, and that brought our providers together for training and a meeting with Tammy Herring in our housing unit. It allows us a chance to roll out policy and make sure everybody understands the requirements for the RPH program, but also a chance to bring them together and network and provide them a chance to ask questions and to hear what others are doing in that program. We continue to partner with UGA in their preparation of an assessment tool for quality control for our day reporting center programs. They have visited 4 pilot sites, Tifton, Rome, Toccoa, and Dublin, and they've tried their tool out, and essentially they're looking to make sure that we're having program fidelity and that we're using evidence-based practices in what we do in the day reporting centers. We met the researchers on the 18th, just this week, to review the tool, and they're preparing a statewide rollout and visits to all the day reporting centers, and then we'll be looking forward to their assessment after the fact. We recently had a reorganization in the field services unit in an effort to reduce recidivism and to consolidate services and improve our efficiency. And so with that, Sherry Bloodworth, would you please stand? I'd like to introduce Sherry Bloodworth. She is our new Deputy Director of the Recidivism Reduction Unit, which includes community counseling services, day reporting centers, housing, and employment and education. Sherry has a long career with the Department of Corrections as well as the Board of Pardons and Paroles, and she's been a great asset to us in the Community Counseling Services Unit, and we're looking forward to her expanded responsibilities. So Sherry, we welcome you.
Welcome.
In addition to that, Mark Morris is now leading up our audits unit. They're preparing a tool for constant quality improvement in regards to field supervision and to the field offices, and hiring staff to serve in the role of auditors. And then Scott Mullis continues to lead the field services unit, which oversees probation options management hearing officers, drug testing, accountability courts, and all of those other things that help the wheel turn. So we're looking forward to Scott continuing his role. And then finally, American Probation and Parole Association. Michael asked me to speak about APPA due to my recent election as a Region 6 representative for Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. And I share that role with Tanaya Appling from DJJ. We're the representatives for the Southeast. We had 2 training sessions that were conducted by DCS at the recent training in Philadelphia. And obviously it was an opportunity to show off what Georgia does, and we love to do that. At the same time, it allows us to kind of hear what others are doing when we send folks there. So that's always a positive. Upcoming training sessions will be in Miami, Florida, with APPA's Winter Training Institute, March 10th, 2019, and that'll be followed by the San Francisco Training Institute, which is August 18th, 2019. So future trips for APPA, keep in mind if you're interested. Finally, I want to recognize with the American Probation and Parole Institute, Patrick Holsey, who just recently presented to you, and Reginald Hewley from DCS, both graduated the APPA Leadership Institute, so we're certainly proud of them.
Congratulations.
In addition to them, from Parole, Crystal Moon and Jenna James also did, but there was a lot of work. Patrick and Reginald spent a lot of time working on that, so it's always great to get national review when that comes also, or national recognition.
Yes, sir.
Finally, we have upcoming Day Reporting Center graduations. There's 6 in October, so if you're interested, just ask me and I'll be glad to tell you about that.
Can you send those to us via email?
I will.
Okay.
I will. So, are there any questions?
Any questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Barbara.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I do want to take a moment and thank everyone for the compliments and the support for the GPACS conference, and I will definitely make sure that the word gets back to the board. We had an amazing board. So, since our last meeting, MPOU has continued to finish up with our 100% of our compliance audits for the year. There are currently 77 providers statewide, 51 governmental, 26 private. There are 779 contracts. There are 947 misdemeanor probation staff that are registered with MPOU, and we have looked at 4,509 cases so far this year. So we've been working very hard to keep up with that 100% of our audits. There's been 13 training sessions provided by MPOU, and this serves 313 employees and 157 of those providers, with 176 hours of required training. And we have 7 more training sessions for up to the end of the year to help continue to get their 20 hours. And we do have a statewide provider meeting scheduled for January 10th that I would like to formally invite anybody that's interested. It will be at Jim Stick at 10 o'clock. And we will be going over our new initiative for next year, which will be a misdemeanor provider strategic plan. So if you're interested, please stop by, or I can send out an invite. We did have an advisory committee meeting on September 7th to finalize our proposed board rule changes, and I will come back later on in the agenda to present those to you for public comment. Other than that, again, thank you. And anybody have any questions?
Will there be any questions? Thank you, ma'am. All right, moving on. The next agenda item is Georgia Commission on Family Violence report out.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you. So I have the pleasure today of talking about a successful event that the Commission recently had a couple weeks ago, actually last week, time goes by. But before I do that, I'd like to first acknowledge that our chair is here, the Commission Chair, Stephanie Woodard. The Hall County Solicitor General is with us today, so I would appreciate you for being here. Also, we have Jenny Asman, who's the Program Manager for the Commission on Family Violence, is here with us. And we're also fortunate to have the former Director of the Commission on Family Violence, Greg Lockwood, with us today. And so I appreciate Greg being here with us. So I'll start off by letting you know that we've just finished up our 24th annual Family Violence Conference. I have a couple of these if y'all want to take a look at the manual and see who was there and who presented. I'm happy to share these with you. Here's something I know. The past 2 years, the advocates of family violence in our state are quite a fierce bunch of people. We've somehow conjured up hurricanes both times. So we're going to have our conference in February, and we'll see how that goes. So we started this one. We had great weather down in Jethro, and we had over 650 people join us. That's the largest conference, family violence conference, that's ever been held in our state. And so I want to appreciate my staff and the volunteers, and I'd like to do a special shout out to Mike Kraft, who was the co-chair for this year's event and helped with planning, and from fantastic door prizes, a Kirby Smart football sign. I mean, we had good prizes. It was good stuff. So anyway, I just want to appreciate the folks who we had on day one. Our keynote speaker was a survivor, Beverly Gooden. Beverly Gooden created the hashtag Why I Stayed just after the Ray Rice incident, where folks were really, going after Janae Rice for staying with him. And so Ms. Gooden shared with us her story and shared with us just what social media can do and how we can use that as a tool. On day two, we had Professor Evan Stark, who literally wrote the book on coercive control. And we were fortunate to have with us that day Scott and Michael joined us that morning and had a chance to listen to Dr. Stark. And so I'm sure they took great notes. If you have any questions, check in with Michael about that. So we had at this conference, CJCC, for those of you who sit on that council, I appreciate your support. 327 scholarships were provided by CJCC. For 48 DFACS personnel, 48 DCS officers to attend, 122 domestic violence advocates to attend, and right at 50 sexual assault advocates to attend. So we had great representation from across the board. Nick actually provided a workshop for some of the DCS officers who were there. Nick and Mike co-presented on the last day. So we were pleased, and if we can capture what we did this year, we're looking forward to growing next year, because we could have exceeded 650, but due to limitations at the conference site, we weren't able to open it up. We had a wait list of over 70 people when we were closed, and so we're pleased, and we're looking forward to growing it bigger for next year. I want to just highlight Judicial District 7. District Director Amanda Jordan from DCS. I'd like to highlight a project that was spearheaded out of the Conasauga Circuit. It was called Operation Purple Ribbon. So I'm going to talk a little bit about DCS here because I think this is a really important work. I'm going to read the briefing. On August 29th and 30th, the Conasauga team officers spearheaded Operation Purple Ribbon, specifically seeking to conduct compliance checks and searches on domestic violence court offenders within Whitfield and Murray counties. A total of 31 offenders were identified based on their DV conditions for DV court, and special conditions required completion of the Family Violence Intervention Program. So as a result of that work, a total of 19 individuals were arrested in those 31 separate of those offenders, 6 of which had violated the no contact order. So we appreciate our relationship and our work and our connection. This merging of DCS, GCFV continues to be successful. I just wanted to highlight that work from the DCS officers. Because what we know is that, alone, domestic violence advocates are not going to stop family violence. It takes all of us working in a coordinated way. So I appreciate the partnership with DCS. The last thing I want to leave with you before I come back and talk about our FIP rules is we have an updated brochure to let folks know about the Commission on Family Violence. I've given each of the board members one. If other folks need them for your office, let us know. This is just a general overview of who we are and what we do. The second brochure I want to highlight for you is a growing project that we have received funding for now for the second year, and we're expecting to continue receiving this funding. Support for survivors of murder-suicide in our state. As of the end of August, there have been 93 total domestic violence-related deaths that we are tracking and monitoring in our office. Of those 93 deaths, we know that there have been 13 completed murder-suicides and 3 attempted murder-suicides. Which means that one of either the victim or the perpetrator did not die as a result of that attempted murder-suicide. In our office, I've talked about this before, we know that victims, surviving family members, oftentimes children, are not connected to helping resources. There's not a prosecution. No one's letting them know about crime victims' compensation. So that's the work of this particular project, where we are reaching out intentionally to family members to let them know what services they're available for. We're also conducting training. Tomorrow we have a training specifically for therapists to work with this specific population because we need to grow people who can work specifically with this specific population. So that's a little bit about that project. We have many, many more of these brochures. We'd love for you to put them out in your offices across the state because we want folks to know that this resource is available and that we're there to help fill that gap. And so I'm going to sort of pause and step back. One thing to the conference that I forgot to mention, and it's an important thing to mention, I want to appreciate DCS for providing support security at our conference this year. We had security from District 1 and 8 in our state. We were represented well. Thank you so much, sir, for that. Of 650 people, that's a lot of folks to make sure we're keeping safe, and they did that professionally, and they did that really well. What I heard from a lot of our conference participants was their appreciation to me, and I can't take any credit for this, for having the best looking officers in the state. So take that back.
I wish you would have said that. Just another day in the life.
It's rough, I know, right? It's rough. Sir, I appreciate your team showing up and helping us and staying engaged the whole time, so thank you very much for that. If there's no questions, I'll sit down.
Is there any questions? Is there any way that you can send, and I'm just going to speak for all of the other commissioners,
Sure.
and they'll deal with me after the meeting, but is there any way that you can send us some packets to put for us to make sure that our agencies are on the same accord?
Sure can.
Maybe an electronic version of this especially?
Yes.
On the web or?
We do. We have that. We're also in the process of creating 10 fact sheets for this specific project that deal with how to work with a family, sort of even pets. We've got one specifically for pets. We are working with a family right now, a grandmother, who is caring for the pet and really understanding the trauma that causes the pet who was in the home at the time of this incident. So working with children. So we have 10 fact sheets that we could also make available to you in a packet. Okay?
All right.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Moving on down the agenda. Anything on the old business to be brought forth? Anything on the old business? Hearing none. New business. Ms. Barber, are you going to start off with the new business?
Okay, today we are proposing an update for the misdemeanor probation oversight rules that were adopted February 14, 2017. The main features of the proposed rules will be that we're to establish clarification and add unintentionally omitted rules that are necessary for oversight and compliance of the misdemeanor probation. These proposed rules include additional definitions for clarification and areas of specification to include secondary employment, nepotism, record retention, and confidentiality. And everyone should have a copy of that. And of course, we struck through anything that we were removing, and we underlined and highlighted anything that was added. Or I think we underlined it and turned it red if we were adding it and struck through anything that was being omitted. These rules will be open for public comment up until October 24th, 2018. And we're proposing that the updates be presented to the DCS board on December 20th for a vote. And then they will become effective January 1st.
Is there any questions that the board may have? We won't vote on this till after or the next meeting on the 20th, but that'll give you a chance to look at it. I know that these were sent out previously.
I would just like to say I want to applaud the commissioner, and I'd like to also tell Ms. Neville that I really appreciate their efforts in this. It's important that providers have very clear rules, and this helps us greatly. And I want to thank her and her staff again for their hard work. I know it's not easy to do this, but review these rules and do this work, so I appreciate it.
Excellent. Anything further? Anything else that we need to do on this particular,
Not at
other
this
than
time.
the 20th?
We don't need a vote, keep it moving forward.
Okay. All
But
right.
I do want to publicly thank the advisory committee. I know I mentioned that earlier. They've been very helpful with talking through a lot of the things and getting a lot of their feedback.
It's good to have an engaged advisor. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to the next item under new business, and that's the, there she is, Ms. Thomas.
Hello again. So at this point, I would request that the board adopt the Family Violence Intervention Program rules that I have provided for you. A period of open comment was held, and you have received a copy of each of those with responses from the commission. And so at this point, deviations from the rules that were presented to you at the prior meeting based on public comment are that we are lowering the suggested or the requirement for certified facilitators from 300 to 150 every 2 years for a certified facilitator to be certified, the fee for certification. And a program, we are lowering that from $300 to $250 based on some of the comments that we received from the public. And then also just one other change, further defining what a program owner means and what a provider means, adding some clarity in our rules for that based on what the public comments were. Outside of that, these are the same rules that were presented to you at the previous meeting, so I'll pause for any questions or comments that you might have.
Jennifer, just from my understanding, the facilitator certification, what are you currently charging?
Currently, we do not have a process for facilitators to be certified. We have run into some issues. We certify programs, and so when we go and conduct site visits on programs and we have a facilitator that's operating way outside of the bounds, we have little room to hold that particular facilitator accountable.
That does make sense then. So secondly, the $150 proposed, where do those funds go?
Sure, those go to the state treasury.
I figured so. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Proper time, I'll make the motion, Mr. Chairman.
All right, is there any further questions before we move into the motion? Hearing none, could I get a motion to approve the intervention program that's been reported?
So move.
Second.
It's been properly motioned and second. Is there any questions concerning to the adoption of it? Hearing none, all those in favor, could I hear the word aye?
Aye.
Any opposed to this document to be adopted? Hearing none, motion carries.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
ma'am. Well, Michael, I think I'm at the bottom of it. I don't have any more check marks.
That's good.
Yeah.
If I could, Mr. Chair, we're going to be convening a meeting right after this in the boardroom. Like they say at bar closing.
You don't have to go.
You gotta go home, but you can't stay here. At least a friend told me that. But if we could, if you're not part of that meeting, I want to be respectful of that group's time. You're more than welcome to use the offices down here to carry on conversation. But just wanted to make that announcement. I appreciate in advance your assistance with that.
Well, thank you for that. Anything in closing from the board?
Just one comment, Mr. Chairman, and really probably should have done it when the commissioner was presenting and talking about our female leaders in the room. But
yes,
we've been blessed and probably sanctioned, but we're going to be hosting females in corrections and juvenile justice in 2020 here in the state of Georgia. So as we move forward, Joan Heath is going to be leading that endeavor to put that together. And obviously, we'd love everybody to be involved. And if you have ideas and concepts, please reach out to Joan and be a part of this, because we're excited to do that.
May I offer some gratitude about that and reflect back. One of the most powerful things about our opportunity was our male allies in the room who stood out as leaders themselves for listening and being a part of a really, I think, exciting conversation. So thanks to you all for keeping that momentum alive. We need you as partners.
That was impressive and doing good work in that area. So thank you. Anything further from the board? In closing, going once, going twice. Meeting's adjourned at 10:59.